try to work your way back and have a good season in Europe and go to camps again next year? Who knows? But how good would Memphis be if Quinones had come back? Because the one thing Memphis is missing is three-point shooting, and at the end of the last year, I believe Quinones was shooting about 40% from three.
Yeah, he was really hitting it at the end of the year.
Yeah, so anyway, college basketball poll is out, and at about 10:45 today, one of the great basketball experts of this country, that would be Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. He will join us then. If you like field goals and you like penalties, you had a love last night, Monday Night Football. What a game. Jeez.
What a game.
I just listened, by the way. I did not realize, but poor Denver fans. I mean, they can't score. Now, Russell Wilson, who they just committed to for long term here, he's hurt. He's got all kinds of injuries. He had a hamstring yesterday, tried to play through. I don't know that they have the greatest offensive line in the history of mankind either. A little like the U of M there. But just dreadful. Like between the Thursday night games and that game last night, there's some bad product going on in the NFL.
Yeah,
I hate to say it, but my Bears contribute to that.
That's true. That was, last Thursday night?
Oh. Between them and the Commanders, oh my gosh.
Well, hey, at least they scored. That didn't happen the Thursday before, so.
No.
A little better.
But last night, that game, overtime, and you get all field goals and penalties? Jeez.
Ugly.
Just awful. The Tiger football team is a 7-point underdog at Tulane. I will tell you, I think Tulane is really good. I mean, they're 25th in the country. Last time they were ranked was 1998. 1998, that's the last time the Green Wave had been in the rankings. I got to believe that was the year they were undefeated and they had King at quarterback, and they were good. Their quarterback is outstanding. I believe their offensive efficiency is like number 18 in the country. Their pass defense is like 11th in the country. But who have they really played? Okay? They lost to Southern Miss. They did beat Kansas State at Kansas State. That's their one signature win. And I hate to say it, they beat both Houston and East Carolina, which Memphis should have beaten both teams. 7 points because Memphis has struggled in that new ballpark there. They've only won one time in that new stadium. And that one was when Bobby McCain had an interception at the end of the game to wrap it up. Other than that, I don't believe they have won, Yeoman Stadium? So 7 is probably right. Obviously, Memphis can win this game. But obviously, Memphis could lose the game. And yesterday at his press conference, Ryan Silverfield was very open. He said, we are a good football team. We just don't execute for 60 minutes. And, he went on to talk about the most talked about play in that game, which is the 2-point conversion when you could have won the game in the second overtime. And it was an RPO, which he said to me on the postgame show when I asked him about it. And so with an RPO, in case folks out there who are listening don't know, RPO stands for run pass option. So the quarterback has a read. He's either reading a defensive end, he's reading a safety, whatever it is, he's reading that in which he is going to either pass the ball or hand it off to the running back, who, by the way, is right next to him holding the ball with him. That's what happens with an RPO. And in this particular case, the RPO was either going to be a slant to Javon Ivory coming over the middle, which their defense took away with double coverage. So now he knows, hand the ball to Asa Martin. The play that they had set up with the alley with the offensive line had worked, according to Ryan Silverfield, several times for 8 or 9 yard gashes. Okay. So now they got the play. They think it's going to work. Either way, it's going to either be Ivory for the 2-point or Martin's going to get in. Unfortunately, one of the better offensive linemen he did not name took the wrong footwork and angle, used the wrong footwork, took the wrong angle, and that bunged up the play, and he got to about a 1.5 yard line, and Downey never had a chance because they didn't block it with the execution to detail. And that, unfortunately, has sort of been the MO. Now, honestly, I can't blame it all on that one play because there's so many plays in a game that all contribute. But I think it is fair to say that the heartbreak in Houston became because of special teams. And they hit some crazy plays, 4th down and long a couple of times, and that was just the way it was. In this game, hate to say it, but beyond that play, Seth Hennigan threw 2 interceptions that both became touchdowns. So if we're going to be honest and identify it, the heartbreak comes from bad plays. Special teams 1 week, your quarterback, who's your best player overall, he kind of did you in this one. Now you got to, again, execute, eye to detail. You can still pull a decent season out. I know the Wolves, they're howling. That's just the way it is with college football. And I believe this team can straighten it out. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. New York and Cleveland rained out yesterday, so they got a different little pitching lineup. We're going to talk in just a minute about the playoffs because San Diego and Philly, the weirdest NLCS with that combination of teams that were out there to play in it, they are front and center. They start today, too. Tim Doolin's got it all coming your way in a minute. I'm sitting in the Family Leisure Studios. A reminder, the big spa sale still going on, 30% off on in-stock spas, huge discounts on swim spas, and special financing available. All you got to do is get to I-40 and Whidden Road, and you will love what you see at Family Leisure, where family and fun and spas all come together. Our title sponsor, it's Homer. Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch at the corner of Craft Road, the first exit in Mississippi off Highway 78, which is Lamar, in Memphis. How many times have you heard, whoa, they're charging you $4,000 over sticker price, $5,000 over sticker price? That doesn't happen at Homer Skelton Hyundai. In fact, Chris True, the GM, and all the gang that's been there for about 25 years, they are giving you money off sticker price on Tucson's and on Santa Fe's, which I think is the best car out there. And special financing is available. All you got to do is go see Chris and the gang right there at Homer Skelton Hyundai. Baseball front and center today with 2 games now. And Tim Doolin, there is a little change in the Yankees and Cleveland starting pitching rotation. Instead of going with the guys that were going to go with last night, they're going back to the Game 2 starters, Nestor Cortes and Shane Bieber. Cleveland won that game. Who wins this one? Game 5, all the marbles. The winner goes to the ALCS to take on Houston. Good morning.
Good morning. I tell you what, this is not where the Yankees wanted to be. A Game 5 with a very savvy and fundamentally sound Cleveland Guardians team. And Terry Francona is probably one of the top, 2 or 3 managers, definitely in our era. And just he knows how to motivate players that are good, not great. And that's what he's got in his lineup. He's got a lot of good baseball players. And so I think he's convinced his players that, hey, no one expected us to be here. We're here. What an exciting time to be, to be playing baseball. And if I were the Yankees, I'd be really nervous. I don't think it's the other way around. I don't think the Guardians players are worried about it. I think they're going to go out and play the game.
All right.
I think it's going to be a close. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Guardians are going to win.
Wow, you heard it first. Doolin is picking the Cleveland Guardians. I loved what Francona said after they lost. He said, "If you had told me we were going to Game 5 to go to the ALCS and we were going to Yankee Stadium, I would have jogged to Yankee Stadium. I would have been so excited." So he's taking it the other way. Like, no, we didn't blow it in Game 4. We got a chance in Game 5. And who would have thought that? Because there were some people that thought Cleveland might win that division. Most people thought Chicago, and most people, and they were right, thought that was the worst division in all of Major League Baseball.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I mean, we talked about it on the show several times. It wasn't a very strong division, but much like the Dodgers experience with the Padres, it doesn't matter what your record is during the course of the year. It's like who's playing really good baseball at come playoff time, and the Padres got hot, just like the Indians, stayed consistent all the way throughout the year, and then they're hot, and so the Yankees, they got some question marks. The Yankees are starting a shortstop that has only played 15 games at shortstop. So what does that tell you? You know.
I would say the pressure's on the Yankees. That's what it tells me, because they're expected to win. They started off the season actually better than the Dodgers. They were on a pace to win, like 120 games?
Yeah. Yeah, and then, it's been since the All-Star break, it's been a steady decline for the Yankees as far as production goes. And, by the way, your leadoff hitter, who's probably arguably one of the best 2 or 3 players in the league, is hitting about $150 in the playoffs. So that's not good.
No.
So they're going to have their stars are going to have to shine today for the Yankees to win. I can assure you that.
I'm with you. So explain to me, in your expertise that only you have the insight on, how did the Dodgers, the Braves, the Mets, all 3 of those teams, superstar teams, you'd think, how did all 3 of those teams, not one of them, get to the NLCS? 2 wild cards. The Phillies from out of nowhere, and the Padres, who you mentioned got hot even without their shortstop. How did they end up in this National League Championship Series?
Well, I mean, when you look at all those teams that are full of superstars, and if you have more than one of them hit the skids, which the Dodgers, Mookie didn't perform like he typically does. They had 3 or 4 guys in that lineup that just, Trey Turner made a huge error in one of those games that cost them. One error, one play cost you, potentially cost you one of those games that would have been a total different scenario in that series. And I think it's pretty consistent with the Mets. Scherzer didn't pitch good. And so the guys that you pay a lot of money to, and the Dodgers had plenty of those guys, and so did the Mets. You look up and you go, damn, what just happened? And again, I think there's a reason why the Phillies and there's a reason why the Guardians are where they are, because they don't put all their eggs in a 3-run home run basket, because when you do, and those guys get cold, then you're in trouble, because you can't just all of a sudden say, okay, now we're in the playoffs, we're going to change our style of play. We're going to hit and run. We're going to bunt. We're going to put more balls in play to make the defense field the balls. Whereas that's what the Guardians do, and that's what the Phillies do. And that's, I think front offices and I think teams need to look at something's to this. Why are these teams having the success they have, that have half the payroll we do and have virtually no superstars? Well, the Phillies have Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
Who else can you name on the Phillies that is a superstar? I don't think you can.
Well,
Nola's really good.
Great
Nola's
example
really good.
is tonight. The payroll for the Cleveland Guardians is $68 million. The payroll for the New York Yankees is $246 million. You're talking about 25% of their payroll.
25%.
But what you just said is really more interesting to me. Forget the payrolls. We've known about those injustices forever, because there's not a salary cap with each team having to pay a certain amount of money, and there's a luxury tax if you go over it. Well, there is a little luxury tax in baseball, but it's not quite like the other NBA and the NFL. But what you just said is, we have this new style of baseball, which is we don't care if you strike out, just hit home runs.
Yeah.
And the style that the teams that have been successful thus far sort of are old school. They're playing baseball the way we knew it way back when. And I'm wondering, when it comes to playoff time, is that the more successful strategy or philosophy?
Well, I would say that, and you look at the success the Dodgers have had, is that they have somewhat of a combination of the two. They just their stars didn't perform when they needed to. However, if you're going to solely rely on analytics, I would love to see the analytics department look and say, okay, what is our team batting average against the frontline arms of all these teams? And I guarantee you, it's below what the norm is. It's not good. And so, you got to have guys that can hit home runs. But I think you win at any level, whether it's amateur, high school, college, minor leagues, or at the big league level. You win with a combination of stars and baseball players. You cannot factor in an analytics report or a statistical report on it factor, on gritty type of players. You look at the Red Sox back in the day; they won with Dustin Pedroia, Shane Victorino, guys that were gritty, just baseball rats. And every year, and again, name me 4 players for the Guardians. You can't do it. You might can, but the average fan can't.
You're absolutely right. All right, real quick, Guardians win tonight. You've just predicted that. Any chance against the Astros?
No,
I
think the Astros are just top to bottom. They're a combination of, like I just said, they're a combination of gritty baseball players that know how to play. Dusty Baker is a phenomenal manager. A matter of fact, I would probably pick the Astros to win it this year. Win the World Series. That's just how good they are.
I agree. Who wins the Philly Padres NLCS?
I think the Phillies do. I just think they're destined this year with a manager taking over for Joe Girardi, and Joe Girardi is a great manager. It just wasn't a good fit, and for Dombrowski and their ownership group to make that change at that time, it's huge kudos to them because it worked, right? And again, I heard A-Rod, who I'm not a super fan of, but he and Frank Thomas made some great comments on their manager. Thompson's been in the game for probably 30 years, and he's done everything. And I think, I don't know if it's Terry Francona or somebody nicknamed him. Oh, Joe Torre nicknamed him Topper, which means he nicknamed that because he was always on top of his game. Everything that he did, from scheduling spring training, he knew where every player was going to be and what they were doing in spring training. This guy's just a baseball guy. And so baseball players that get it are going to play really hard for that kind of guy.
All right. Tim, we thank you. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. And by then, we might have a World Series matchup.
Sounds good. Thanks, Wolo.
Thank you. We appreciate it. That is our man on baseball. That is Tim Doolin. He's brought to you by Ken Garland, Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. If you're ready to make that leap, and Ken knows you're making a financial commitment when you hire him to build your dream home or to renovate your home. I call it renovation with innovation, because he's going to bring all the modern amenities and fit them into your older home with that lot you love, you're so comfortable with, and it becomes a modern palace. So he knows, now this is a commitment. So he works with you all the way. He'll let you know exactly what's going on, and you will get and should expect quality construction on time, on budget. For 2 generations, that is what Ken Garland Custom Home Builders have done. Go to kengarland.com and then call him. He loves chatting with people. 751-1632. 751-1632. Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. And this portion of the show brought to you by the Eflin Insurance Team, and I mean team. There's a lot of folks. You want to talk to Matt for sure, but there's Grant, there's Andrew, there's Heath. They're all involved, and it's collaborative. They get to know you. So if they're going to take care of your family, to protect you, whether it's life insurance or maybe your home, an auto program, they'll find out all about you. They'll figure out your budget, and they'll find the right way to protect you. That's how the Eflin team does it. Does it with business, too. I mean, if you've got a small to mid-sized business, he's got the perfect commercial insurance for you. He'll find out what your products are. He'll find out about your history. He'll take your assets. He'll figure out what you need to protect the most. They'll even forecast it out for you. And then they find the right product to protect you. It's collaborative. It's unique. It's terrific. 901-386-4777. That spells out GUR because he's a big Tiger guy. That's the Eflin Insurance Team. Back in a minute, Jeff Moore on the National Football League. He comes your way in just a minute.
Let former Memphis Tiger Gabe Kuhn and Brett Norsworthy take you home every afternoon. with Sports Time on Sports 56. Weekdays from 3 to 6 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hey, what QC Kinetics is doing for people here is terrific. Nothing short of amazing. I'm talking real lasting relief from joint pain. Hey, it's Greg Gaston. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in exciting new pain treatments with advanced regenerative medicine, non-surgical alternatives. If you're living with joint pain from injury or arthritis, don't let them tell you steroids and pain meds and surgery are your only options. QC Kinetics uses regenerative treatments that can restore and repair damaged tissue. All right, maybe you've been diagnosed with bone-on-bone arthritis and have been told you need a replacement. Call QC Kinetics now for an alternative way to deal with the pain. These amazing protocols work with pain caused by injury as well, like a torn meniscus or rotator cuff. Call QC Kinetics now. Don't delay. Don't keep living with that pain. Learn how regenerative medicine can give you your life back with no drugs and no surgery. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. 901-445-1010. That's 901-445-1010. QC Kinetics. 901-445-1010.
Bienvenidos. Welcome to Los Cabos with 4 locations: Quince, Bartlett, Germantown, and now on Goodman Road. Los Cabos serving the best food in town with quality service and a fun family atmosphere. At Los Cabos, food and drink are an important part of the dining experience, so you get exceptional food with cocktails worthy of that food. You'll find the best margaritas at Los Cabos, along with delicious specialty drinks, handcrafted cocktails, beer, and happy hour specials 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. Los Cabos is open for lunch and dinner, with lunch specials every day starting at $7. Come enjoy delicious Mexican dishes and seafood at the best sports bars in town. Visit with family and friends and enjoy Los Cabos Mexican Bar and Grill. Los Cabos, now with 4 locations: Quince, Bartlett, Germantown, and their newest location, 3964 Goodman Road, just a few minutes down the road from Getwell. See you soon at Los Cabos.
Hi, fellas. Bill Russell at Russell Brothers Fine Jewelers, and it's fall now. The weather's changing, the days are getting shorter, and we all are at least beginning to think about Christmas. This will be our 37th Christmas at Russell Brothers Jewelers, and I enjoy every minute of the season. I invite you to come see our wide selection of the finest jewelry in Memphis, jewelry that's guaranteed to make her happy. Diamonds and rubies, sapphires and emeralds, the most beautiful gemstones that you can imagine, and you'll find a selection of rings and earrings, bracelets, and pendants that will show those gems off to their finest advantage and will put a smile on her face. With our experience, we can help you find just that perfect piece, the piece that says, I love you. For 37 years, we've offered the most stunning jewelry in Memphis, and when you couple the jewelry with our quality and beauty, our value and service, you'll be glad you joined the Russell Brothers Jewelry family. Russell Brothers Jewelers, 4646 Poplar at Perkins.
Welcome to Triumph Auto Sales, where you'll have a great car buying experience. Triumph Auto Sales is your #1 source of quality pre-owned vehicles ranging from lease returns to new car trades, all at huge savings. Plus, Triumph has a full array of financing options to meet your needs. Find your next car online at triumphautosales.com or stop in today at 4875 Elmore Road. Triumph Auto Sales will help you get the vehicle you want at the price you need and the service you deserve. For a great car and a great experience from a local and family-owned business, visit Triumph Auto Sales.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Welcome back in as we roll along on Wolo and Friends on this Tuesday morning. It's presented by our title sponsor, Homer Skelton Hyundai and Olive Branch, where you never pay more than sticker price. Here's a beaming Jeff Moore. I mean, his smile is megawatt. Has nothing to do with the National Football League, but you know Jeff, who played for the Rams, also played for the Tennessee Volunteers, and you guys are back.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Heifel is doing an incredible job up there, but what an epic game. I mean, that was the game for the ages offensively for both teams, and just can't say enough about the resilience, frankly, of both teams offensively to keep coming back, keep fighting, getting back in there, tying it up. And, you know, we were fortunate that the Alabama missed what would have been a chip shot field goal for them and gave us an opportunity to get back in and just
and your guy,
the pass at the end.
that field goal was wobbly. It was just
knuckleball, man.
Yeah, just made it. Special teams. I talk about this a bunch. It's a third of the game, and people forget about it. Cost Memphis one game this year, and that might have cost Alabama. But Hooker, he's something else.
He's special.
I have a Heisman vote, and he would be number one at this moment. We'll see how it all plays out. But he's been terrific. Obviously, the wide receiver had 5 touchdowns on 6 catches. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But Heupel, you know the game, so his strategy of using every inch of the field is so brilliant because it spreads things out. If you have a running back who has the advantage of that space, my goodness. And he's got it all on all cylinders. All it took was getting the right personnel, and he was fortunate to have Hooker.
He was, and of course, it's great to see that Hooker's really understands that offense and runs it well. But it's tough to defend sideline to sideline like that. I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on your defense, on your linebackers, on your secondary, and then the fact that they just play at such a high speed, they just keep the defenses off balance. It's just hard to defend, and it's great to see it. And they'll get tested again. I mean, this is the time for the gauntlet. You got Georgia coming up.
Well, that's the thing. Can they beat Georgia? I would have said before, can anybody ever put 52 points on Alabama?
Yeah.
Somebody told me this. I haven't checked it out, but I believe it's right. The last time Alabama had that many points scored on them was 1935.
I thought I saw 1905, but I mean, it's been a generation. It's been a long time.
It's a couple generations. Wow, that's incredible.
So, I mean, that offense is tough to stop. Defense has got to step up this when they play Georgia, though. I mean, those guys, they've got some big dogs up front, and it's a great challenge. But this team is playing with a lot of confidence. They're young, they're excited, and they're competitive. That's the other thing I give Coach Heupel credit for is he has them believing when they line up that they can win if they do the little things the right way.
Last night was competitive, if you like field goals and penalties. Monday night, that was a stinker of a game.
Tough game. And both of these teams basically, Denver more so, I think, than San Diego, are just trying to find themselves. When you bring in a new quarterback and you try to get him meshed into an offense that was predominantly a running offense before, and then the Chargers have some guys that are injured. So, I mean, it's just that combination. And frankly, I think teams are just still trying to find themselves, especially offensively, in the season so far. You just don't see high-scoring games like I think we'll see as the season progresses.
We get a correction here. 1907.
Okay.
That's the last time. Thank you, Brett Norsworthy, who will be on with us tomorrow in this time slot. Last time Alabama allowed that many points, Sewanee in 1907. My gosh, that's crazy. The Jets and the Giants.
Great story.
All of a sudden, New York City's got football teams.
Isn't that great? I mean, and of course, these fans have suffered for so long, but the Giants are playing with a lot of confidence. You got to give their coach a lot of credit, and it's great to see, obviously, Saquon Barkley playing well. But Danny Dimes has been consistent. He's not turning the ball over. He's playing really tough, and their defensive line they've got some man-eaters over there. So, this Giants team, ironically, the NFC East is merging as the best division in football. So it's gonna be a test for them to win the division, but just to see them competitive, to see the Jets competitive, it's great for the league. I think whenever these two teams are relevant, it just makes the NFL a lot more interesting.
Well, the East probably is the best because you've got the only undefeated team left, Philly. You've got this great story in the Giants, and you've got Dallas, which gave Philly a pretty good run, and they're using their backup quarterback, although I think Cooper Rush has been every bit as good as Prescott has been.
Yeah.
They're going to get Prescott back, and the fact they lost the game makes it easier for him to come back in. But who's the best team in the National Football League?
I think it's just a razor-thin difference between the Eagles and Buffalo. Buffalo showed me a lot to go into Kansas City and win the way that they won. They're just solid. In the only game that they've lost, they really had a chance to win against Baltimore. They're a really good team offensively and defensively, and I think I give them a slight edge because I like their defense. I think their defense is better than the Eagles, but you got to give the Eagles credit. I mean, they're beating everybody that lines up in front of them. They're playing well offensively, defensively. Those two teams, I think, are just kind of neck and neck, but I like Buffalo a little bit more because I think they're just stronger on both sides of the ball.
I kind of think the two best teams played each other.
Okay.
Not to diminish Philly, but Kansas City and Buffalo, I really think are the two best teams. I thought Green Bay might be in that range, but losing the way to the Jets, although that's a good part of the story. I don't think the Packers are quite the team we thought they were going to be. I think Buffalo and Kansas City, I don't think there's two better quarterbacks than Mahomes and Josh Allen right now. I think those are the standard bearers, and I think they've now sort of passed Rodgers and Brady.
Yeah, and the way that they're playing now, and the way the command that they have of their offenses, they really are lifting and carrying their teams. And I would agree with you. I think they're the two best quarterbacks in the league. But I think people keep underestimating Jalen Hurts. And if you look at his resume, I mean, this guy is just a winner. He just does it wherever he goes. He seems like this is his second year having the same offensive coordinator for 2 years in a row. And that says two things. That says, he certainly is going to have more comfort in this offense, but it also shows you how much, and he talks about how much tutelage he's gotten from the various offensive minds that he's had to work around, and he's a coach's son. He really understands the game well, and I like him I like him to continue leading these Eagles the way he's doing it.
It's amazing how the two Alabama quarterbacks that I didn't think would be good pros. I've said this before. I don't mean to be redundant, but Hurts and Tua, who's, by the way, Tagovailoa, having a hard time talking this morning. He's probably coming back this week, and that will probably change Miami's fortunes. But both those guys, they're amazing stories.
They really are great stories, and I think their skill sets kind of speak more to the way that the league has evolved to be more wide open offensive type of attack with your quarterback is just a really key element in the transition. But I think both of these guys, their careers to transition the way they have to the pro game, it's been fascinating to watch. I mean, I think it's early for both, but both of them seem to be transitioning well, and I'm looking forward to seeing Tua get back out there because the Miami offense really needs him.
Does Tagovailoa, does he change Miami's fortunes?
I think he does. I mean, I think they're more comfortable with opening that offense up when he's back there, and he's shown that he can be accurate and he can throw it deep.
Tell me about the Vikings. That's one team we really haven't spoken about much. They're 5-1. They appear to be better than anybody else in what I think now is a pretty weak NFC North because the Bears aren't very good at all. Yeah. The Packers are a disappointment. The Lions, well, we all thought from Hard Knocks, they're going to be much better this year. Well, they're the Lions.
Yeah, Minnesota, I mean, I think, Kirk Cousins, with the weapons that he has, they've got a new coach, an offensive-minded coach. And I think that this offense, this team is solid. They still, I think, are not the best team in NFC, but they're going to be there, I think, in the hunt. And if they can continue to improve defensively, I think they're going to be fine. I mean, I like what they've done so far this year, and they're playing very consistently on both sides of the ball.
When we know 1-2 Buffalo, KC in the AFC so far. We say Philly for sure because they're undefeated. Who's the second best team in the NFC then?
I'm going to say Minnesota right now. Yeah. I'm going to be curious to see how Dak plays once he's back in there because this Dallas defense has certainly been fantastic so far this year. And if he can come in and be solid and make this offense take it up another notch, I think the Cowboys will be right in there in the NFC.
It'd be fun to watch because that East is really a great division. No question about that. And, you talked a little bit about how defenses have sort of been dominant and that offenses are about to maybe become a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Do you think we'll see this parity all the way through? Because, this is Pete Rozell's dream. Anybody on any given Sunday. And it sure seems that way with the exception of a couple of the elite teams. You look at all these divisions. There's division leaders that are 500,
Right.
And half the division is 500. Are we going to see that the whole way through?
I think so. I really do. One thing that's been evident throughout the season so far is no team has just been dominant. If you look at, even though the Eagles are undefeated, I mean, there have been a couple of games that were close that could have gone the other way. And then you look at your division leaders, especially we thought the AFC West was going to be one of the best divisions. You look at the Chargers and the Chiefs, they're right there. So I think, and of course, the Giants have surprised us. The Jets have surprised us. Yeah, I think on any given Sunday, you better be ready to play because these teams can beat you.
That is the beauty of the National Football League. Thank you so much, as always. We'll see you again next Tuesday. That is Jeff Moore. He is brought to you in part by the good folks at Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, electric, and the famous tune-up. That's $69, best money you ever spend. There's a couple of reasons why you like it. One, your system's going to last longer if it's efficient. These things ain't cheap. So that's why my mantra is twice a year, right before summer and right before winter, and we are there right now. They'll do a little carbon monoxide check with their little camera, make sure there's no leaks. They do that all the time. That annual furnace tune-up also will keep you in tune so your MLGW bill goes down. It's just that simple. $69 to do what is maintenance. We all have maintenance in life. This is one of them. 384-3511. Give Conway a call. You'll sleep better because you know there's no carbon monoxide, and your pocketbook will thank you later. We take a break. When we come back, college hoops front and center, and the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. He is next.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
I'm Brian Elder. It's been a particularly rainy season, and that stain on your ceiling isn't getting any smaller, exposing your family to the possibility of mold. Let me come take a look. 867-0303. Our technicians are Owens Corning Platinum Preferred, so don't let someone tell you that it has to be replaced if all you need is a repair to get several more years of life. 867-0303. Have me on your speed dial for when life's little catastrophes come up. 867-0303. Upgrade your roof to a beautiful Owens Corning Duration Architectural Shingle with a 50-year warranty and an unheard of 25-year labor guarantee. I'll measure your roof from outer space and give you a competitive estimate right over the phone. Buy now and pay nothing till 2022 with approved credit. 867-0303 or BrianElderRoofing.com.
Call 867-0303. Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Swerving, speeding, and reckless driving can leave you in your own dust. Drag racing has its consequences. You can lose your driving privileges, your vehicle, face jail time, or even lose or take a life. So slow down, Memphis. The life you save may be your own. Brought to you by the Memphis Police Department, Traffic Operations.
DeSoto Auto Sales specializes in late model cars with low mileage. They have the highest standards in the car industry. All of their cars are test-driven, checked out from head to toe. Unlimited inventory, every make and model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll find it for you. Walk in the door of DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Within 45 minutes, you can test your car, get credit approval, and finish paperwork within an hour. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales. Kind, courteous employees, a down-home environment, DeSoto Auto Sales cares about your time. Lowest prices in a 350-mile radius. We're living in a world today where time does matter. Visit them online. Check out their referrals. DeSotoAutosales.com. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and other surrounding areas. DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Call 662-890-7184. 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto Auto Sales.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
The new college football poll is out. Who better to analyze that than the Hall of Famer himself, the lead college basketball analyst for the Sporting News, the one and only Mike DeCourcy, who joins us every Tuesday in this time slot. I want to get to that poll, but I got to start with Damian Baugh, the former Tiger, who apparently made a mistake, got uncredited or something of that nature agent, and he's no longer with TCU at the moment. You've written about it. What's the latest on that? Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Dave. He is with them. He can't play if they have a game, which they will on November 7th. He encountered a situation last spring where things were going fast for him, and he decided that he was going to move to the NBA and not leave the back door open to go back to college. And after a very short time in that circumstance, he came to his senses, so to speak, and realized that he'd made a mistake. And the problem was that in filing for early entry, that's not a problem. Signing with an agent, not a problem. But doing so with an uncertified NCAA agent, that's a problem. And so he's having to go through the process of reinstatement, and TCU has appealed the original ruling on his penalty for signing with an uncertified agent. We don't know what that penalty is specifically, but we know this: if it were a reasonable penalty, he probably wouldn't be appealing. And a reasonable penalty for a circumstance like this, where, by my sources, he did not receive any compensation from the agent and didn't have to pay anything back. It was more just a function of the fact that he had signed with the agent, and that's against the rules. I think that's a 2 or 3 game suspension, Dave, and that's where it should have been when it started. And I have very little doubt that if Damian Baugh had been told, okay, you can't play against Abilene Christian or whoever it is in the next couple, and I looked at their schedule and they don't play a high major opponent in the first 4 or 5, if that's all he had been docked, I don't think he would be appealing. So I think it's more severe than that, and it really shouldn't be. I compared it in the article to like parking near a fire hydrant. That's not a good thing, especially if there's a fire. But if you look in most cities, if you do that and you get tagged for it, it's about $100, give or take. It depends on the area, but I think that's basically what this deserves. And I don't understand sometimes why the NCAA's eligibility department puts athletes through this.
I don't either. I don't think that should be any more than 1 or 2 games, personally. I never quite understand what the NCAA does. This goes back to, it looks like it's fortunate that Memphis went before the AIRP, because I don't believe they would have gotten the kind of penalties or lack thereof had this been the decision of the NCAA, which sometimes forgets, they're in a business, right? And the players are a big part of that. Why are you punishing not only a kid, but the team and the fans for something as petty as this is?
The certification process was begun so that athletes would, one, have the opportunity to have agents, but also to have agents who weren't just fly-by-night people. Mike DeCourcy decides he wants to be an agent. He doesn't have any idea what he's doing, and maybe doesn't necessarily have the athlete's best interest at heart, but he decides he wants to be an agent. Okay, I'm an agent, boom. And so that the NCAA said, we want these people to be legit, really interested in the specific issues relative to that athlete that needs this advice on whether or not it's wise to return to college or time to go to the pros. So this process was put in place to help athletes. Okay, so if the athlete screws it up and hasn't done anything untoward in that process, then help the player and make sure that he's able to be out on the floor with a very minimal penalty to say, yeah, you shouldn't have done what you did. You broke the rules, and this is your penalty to say you broke the rules, but you didn't do anything awful.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder if best interest of players really is a philosophy that they use. Moving on. Tournament expansion. Can the NCAA, commissioners are talking about it in a couple of leagues, can they make this tournament better by opening it up to more teams?
Oh, goodness gracious, no. And I say this, Dave, I have real world experience in this. I spend as the bracket analyst for Fox Sports, I spend all of January, February, and the first couple of weeks of March looking at what exists beyond the horizon, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pretty. The teams that don't make the NCAA tournament generally, almost without exclusion, don't belong in the NCAA tournament. They have not shown that they look like NCAA tournament teams. There's no value in expanding that bracket beyond where it is now. They've stretched it to its limit. This past year, now, does that mean they don't every now and then maybe take a team that some others would say is less qualified than one that's left out? I mean, last spring, for instance, Texas A&M failed to make the NCAA tournament, although they played in the SEC championship game and beat, I think, Auburn and Auburn and somebody that was a tournament team. Maybe, let's say Alabama. I can't remember exactly. They beat two tournament teams in the semifinals and quarterfinals of the SEC tournament, played the Vols, I believe, for the conference championship and lost. So out of 211 aggregated brackets, online brackets at the Bracket Matrix, that includes mine, Jerry Palms at CBS, Andy Katz at NCAA, Joe Lenardi, and a lot of people who aren't professionals but do it with a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not separating them from us. We're fortunate to do it for big media sites. But out of 211 brackets, 200 had A&M in. So it was pretty strong that they belonged, but they didn't get the committee's nod. There were 10 votes in that room that were stronger than our 200. Okay, so, but there's not one of us who can say, well, they absolutely had zero reason to get left out. They had a million reasons to get left out. They lost 9 out of 10 at one point. They lost, I think, 3 games to teams that didn't make the field. They were, I believe it was 4-9 or 4-10 against teams that did make the field. There wasn't enough there to say they absolutely belonged. And that's what you're talking about putting in. And the problem with that, Dave, is if you start putting that in, then that last week when everybody's wondering about who gets in and seriously interested in it, and it's gone. Nobody cares anymore because everybody gets in. Everybody that even can bounce the ball 3 times in a row is getting in, and you've taken all the interest out of your regular season, out of your conference tournament weeks. The only real interest at that point would be who might win the automatic bids in the smaller leagues. Why would you want to do that to your sport? It makes no sense at all. And Greg Sankey's absolutely absurd comparison of Ole Miss's baseball team winning the NCAA College World Series as the last team in. Well, what about the next basketball team? It's not the same sport, Dave. I could say the same thing about the 13th football team. Well, couldn't they win the national championship? You and I know the answer to that is no. Why? Because it's not the same sport. Football is different than basketball. Basketball is different than baseball. And trying to drag the College World Series into this discussion, it offends everybody who follows this sport.
I agree with everything you've just said. I would just point this out. The year that Memphis won the NIT, they beat a Boise team. They both got into the NCAA the next year. They beat a Colorado State team that had Roddy on it, that is now a rookie with the Tigers. But in all honesty, when you looked at the resume, Memphis really didn't belong in. And your promotional aspect of your sport, where there is drama and there is interest because there are winners and losers in that last weekend, and people forget to have drama, you have to have conflict. And that's what you got with this. And if you take that away, I agree with you. I don't think you get the same promotional value for your game.
Absolutely not. I mean, there was a game in the Big East tournament last year. I think it was like around a 5 o'clock game. It was a Thursday afternoon game, a Wednesday afternoon game. First day of the Big East tournament. Butler's having a terrible season, well under 500. Xavier had a great start to the year, but was somewhat falling apart. And Xavier absolutely had to beat Butler to make the field. And if they had, they probably would have, based on my bracket analysis and those of others who've done it even longer than I have. They probably would have made it with that Butler win, but they couldn't make it without. So there was so much drama. And when Xavier gets up 6 points with 50 seconds left, they're thinking, okay, we've got it. And then they blew it. And that's what, I'm not saying this because I want the Musketeers to feel bad, but if we just want, this is that everybody gets a trophy thing. If we want sports to be exciting, there has to be consequence. And the consequence of blowing a 6-point lead with 50 seconds left and missing, I think, 4 free throws in a row in the final 50 seconds and going into overtime and losing, the consequence is you go to the NIT. That's how it works. And that's why this is that's why March is owned by college basketball. And if you take that consequence out, the NCAA tournament isn't what it is.
All right, real quick, college basketball poll is out. Memphis doesn't get in the top 25. They are in the top 40. North Carolina with 47 first-place votes. I read on CBS Sports that North Carolina is overrated, and yet they were pretty dominant in the voting here. Do you agree with the top 10?
I think what's interesting, Dave, about Carolina's position as a top 25 team, as the number one team in the top 25, is that 5 years ago they would have been nowhere near that, even if they retained all the players that they have. But the reality is they wouldn't have. Without a doubt, 5 years ago, Armando Bacot would have gone pro and probably been a first-round pick. But the NBA has changed. The Steph Curry revolution, as I like to call it, has changed the league so that the big guy isn't the player that isn't as valued as he used to be. And so Bacot comes back, and they do not have a single player on their team who you look at today and says that guy's a no-doubt first round. What you have to bet on with Carolina is that Caleb Love has the kind of season that turns him into a first-round pick. Mm-hmm. Now, if he plays like he did the last 3 to 4 games of last year's tournament, that'll happen. But there's like Ochai Agbaji did a year ago for Kansas, stepped out on the floor in Madison Square Garden, day one Champions Classic, one of the best 5 players in the country. He's going to be a first rounder. They're going to have a shot. And that's what happened. But that has to happen now for Caleb Love. And that's what I assume, if they're really thinking about it, the 47 people in the AP poll who voted for Carolina are saying.
All right. We'll examine this a little bit more closely next week. Thank you, my friend. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
That is Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, brought to you in part by AmeriCare. That's the place. If you've got a loved one at home that you think needs assisted living, maybe memory care, I've got to tell you about South Breeze in Memphis, Schilling Gardens in Collierville, and Olive Grove Terrace in Olive Branch, which, by the way, at Olive Grove Terrace, which is a beautiful place and is right there at 9684 Goodman Road. If you choose to go there, there are some specials going on right now in pertaining to getting in. So check it out. When you hear the words healthy aging, do you think of vitamins or eating right, exercise? It's more important. According to the folks at AmeriCare, and they've been doing this since 81, they got 133 places. It's more important to spend time with friends, to have a purpose that gets you up in the morning, to have an intimate community, and they're a little bit smaller, and they're very purposeful, and they're all about wellness at the AmeriCare places. So if you've got a loved one you really care about and you want to make sure they're taken care of right with assisted living and memory care, this is the place. Again, Memphis South Breeze, Collierville, it's Schilling Gardens, and in Olive Branch, it's Olive Grove Terrace with some special incentives for you if you would like to check that place out. That'll do it for us. We want to thank Mike DeCourcy. We want to thank Jeff Moore. We want to thank Tim Doolin. Tomorrow, opening night for the Grizz, we'll have Pete Pranica on at 45. Jarvis Greer right at the beginning of the show, about 10:12 or so, and then Brett Norsworthy. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I am a little bit. LSU is a 1.5 favorite over the Rebels.
Ooh.
We'll get Brett's take on that. That will be tomorrow. Johnny Radio comes your way in just a minute. Have a great day, everybody.
You've heard of James